Top 5 Evil Children. Mary Bell was convicted of strangling a young boy, Martin Brown, on May 25, 1968, the day before her 11th birthday. She was, as far as anyone knows, alone on this occasion. On July 31, 1968, Mary and her friend Norma Bell, no relation to Mary, took part in the death, again by strangulation, of 3-year-old Brian Howe. Police reports concluded that Mary Bell had gone back after killing him to carve an N into his stomach with a razor. This was then changed using the same razor but with a different hand to an M. Mary Bell also used a pair of scissors to cut off bits of Brian Howe's hair and part of his genitals. As the girls were so young and their testimonies contradicted each other, it has never been entirely clear precisely what happened. Martin Brown's death was initially ruled an accident as there was no evidence of foul play. Eventually, his death was linked with Brian Howe's killing, and in August, the two girls were charged with 2 counts of manslaughter. Mary was released in 1980 with court-ordered anonymity. In 2003, the courts awarded her and her daughter anonymity for life. Jesse Dameroy was 14 when he was arrested in 1874 for the horrific murder of a 4-year-old boy. He was quickly labeled the Boston Boy Fiend. His horrible trip had begun 3 years earlier with the sexual torture of 7 other boys. For those crimes, Pomeroy was sentenced to a children's reform school but was released early. Not long after, he mutilated and killed the 10-year-old girl who came into his mother's store. A month later, he kidnapped 4-year-old Horace Mullen, took him to a swamp outside town and slashed him so savagely with a knife that he nearly decapitated him. Because of his strange appearance, he had a milky white eye and his previous abhorrent behavior, he was under suspicion. When he was shown the body and asked if he'd done it, he responded with a nonchalant, "I suppose I did." Then the girl was found buried in his mother's cellar and he confessed to that murder, as well. He was convicted and sentenced to death. Following a public outcry against condemning children to death, his sentence was commuted to 40 years of solitary confinement. John Venables and Robert Thompson both 10 years old, had been stealing things all day at the shopping center: candy, a troll doll, some batteries, a can of blue paint, and other incidentals. Why did they decide to steal 2-year-old James Bulger? Was it a plot or a sudden, overwhelming compulsion? Once they had him, they didn't know what to do with him. They could have easily discarded him, leaving him alone on the sidewalk by a shop where someone would discover the crying baby. But John and Robert, like children who would rather destroy their own possessions than give them to another, murdered the little boy. James's parents would never see their baby alive again. The video cameras at the mall caught several images of James Bulger in the hands of his killer, frozen in time. He was to be taken on a long, aimless walk, cruelly tortured along the way. James was senselessly beaten to death by his 10-year-old captors, who callously abandoned him on the railroad tracks. Brenda Ann Spencer. On Monday, January 29, 1979, 16-year-old Brenda Ann Spencer used a rifle to wound 8 children and 1 police officer at Cleveland Elementary School in San Diego, and to kill Principal Burton Bragg and custodian Mike Suchard. The school was across the street from her house. She used the rifle she had recently been given for Christmas by her father. When the 6-hour incident ended and the pretty teenager was asked why she had committed the crime, she shrugged and replied, "I don't like Mondays." This livens up the day. She also said, "I had no reason for it, and it was just a lot of fun. It was just like shooting ducks in a pond. And the children looked like a herd of cows standing around. It was really easy pickings." Her lack of remorse and inability to provide a serious explanation for her actions when captured inspired the song "I Don't Like Mondays" by the Boomtown Rats, written by socialist musician Bob Geldof. Her quote "I don't like Mondays" also appears written on a wall in the movie, The Breakfast Club. Lori Tackett. On the morning of Saturday, January 11, 1992, Indiana President Don Foley and his brother Ralph decided to do some quail hunting in a nearby Jefferson County forest. Just 1 mile into their trip, as Don turned onto Lemon Road, Ralph spotted a strange object just a few feet from the road in a barren soybean field. But once it appeared to them that it might be a body, but the form was so badly burned and scarred that it looked to them to be a doll. Upon closer investigation, it became painfully obvious that it was not a doll. Upon investigation, It turned out to be the body of Shonda Scherer, who would later be found the victim of a jealous lesbian love triangle. Her body, prior to the murder, had been slashed and stabbed, with death eventually resulting from torching. Lori Tackett was ultimately implicated along with Tony Lawrence and Hope Repeat. Mary Lori Tackett was born on October 5, 1974 in Madison, Indiana. Her mother was a fundamentalist Pentecostal Christian and her father was a factory worker with 2 felony convictions and prison stints in the 1960s. Tackett claimed she was molested at least twice as a child, at ages 5 and 12. Thanks for watching.